honor and a privilege to have you on the show. And really, we've never done it this format before. Usually, we always just record the story, but I think it would be cool to make it like more of a show format. And I want to ask some tough questions that I know some people probably want to know the answers to. So let's get started, man. What is your name and how long have you been sober?
My name is Tyson. I'm a recovering alcoholic, and I have been sober since January 13th, 2015. I believe today I have like 76 months or something like that.
Nice. How many years is that?
6 years in a few months. Yeah, man.
Oh, man, that's awesome. Dude.
Super grateful for my life.
That's awesome. What was your childhood like?
My childhood, I grew up in Santa Ana, California. I really didn't have any like serious traumatic stuff that happened growing up. I grew up on both sides of my family. They were partiers, but it wasn't like they were like drinkers and then they went and handled their business and like worked hard and then partied harder on the weekends. But always, I was kind of raised like you handle your shit while you're getting drunk,
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like some dysfunctional, like my dad couldn't pay the bills or anything. Like I didn't have any of that, but I definitely had some uncles that were like on that side of things, and things got like real bad, real quick. I smoked a lot of smoking weed and drinking growing up, so I started doing that at a very, very young age because I thought that's what you do,
Yeah.
But basically I grew up in an alcoholic household.
Okay.
It was always like. Even though we were provided for, it was like walking on eggshells.
Yeah.
No matter what, there was always intensity in the home, right? How's dad going to come home today? Is he going to be? Hopefully he's nice and buzzed, and he's in that good buzz mood. Not that fucking angry buzz.
Yeah.
That shit gets fucked up, right? So it's always kind of like just a lot of anxiety and nervousness growing up, man. Like no self-confidence, just kind of like didn't feel quite a part of. Maybe a big part of that was being in an alcoholic household.
For sure. Wow. And you were talking about your uncles. Like, what were they like, or what did they introduce you to?
You know what? One of my uncles, he's been a meth cook for many years. Okay. So they kind of introduced me to like, they weren't the first ones to ever give me meth, but once I started using meth with my neighbors, my uncle was stoked that I was on board with the meth life. He's like, all right, let's hang out now, Ty. Now you're cool with us. So let's go take apart a fucking storage unit and let's go have some fun. And they're much older than me, but yeah, I was doing that at like 13, 14 years old, tweaking hard.
At 13, 14?
Yeah.
Wow.
My first rail was like a big red fucking rail of meth, like back when meth was real.
So that goes into the next question. What was your drug or drugs of choice?
My drug of choice, my first thing I ever did was smoke weed. I started drinking it, smoked weed at 11, drank at 12, did my first rail of meth at 13, and I was off and running on meth for all of the 90s and early 2000s until I started getting locked up. And once I started doing time in and out of jail, in and out of prisons on all my 20s, I got turned on to opiates. So at the end, opiates were my drug of choice. In the beginning, meth was my drug of choice, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What was it about opiates that you loved the most?
Looking back now that I've educated myself and I'm in the addiction field, opiates are a depressant like alcohol. Since alcohol was kind of my first love and alcoholism's in my blood, heroin gets you there the same style but much quicker. Yeah. And there's not this gnarly like, I don't know. It's just, I guess that's probably why I love it. I always felt like perfect on opiates, man. And I remember it started off with like doing a little bit of heroin, but I got really into the Oxycontins and the pills. Bunch of dirty doctors giving me prescriptions. I had enough prescriptions to help 20 cancer patients, and I was doing it all, and I just felt super numb and super like no feelings, which I was looking when we're out there, we don't want to feel, right? So the opiates got me there the quickest.
Wow. So so the Dirty Doctors, how did that go? Like,
well, I mean, yeah, bottom line, like one of the doctors I used to go to, he's doing like 15 years in federal prison. Like right now he's in federal prison.
Wow.
And they just back during that time when everybody and their mom were getting Oxycontin prescriptions, and my buddy turned me on to a doctor, and I just went in there and was like, my back's fucked up, whatever you say, right? And they can't prove anything with the back pain. So they started giving me all these pills, and that really set me off. I truly believe that was like a big turning point with going really far down the scale with opiate addiction. And then I got to a point where, it's those pills are very expensive, right? And I'm like, so I was like, you know what, man, I think I can't, addicts, we're smart. We're very intelligent, right? I'm like, I got a fucking plan, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to start doing heroin, and then I'm going to sell these pills, right? So I can pay my bills and get high. So that's basically at the end, I just went full heroin. I was like, this shit's too expensive to be taken, bro. I'm gonna slam heroin, So
you talked about when you first started using meth, you were 13 or 14. Tell us about the first time you used meth and what that felt like.
My buddy, he was, I hung out with a lot of older people growing up in my teens. My neighbor was 20, I was 14. So I hung out with all his buddies. They were like gnarly partiers. Yeah. And I'm like, this is what I want. Right. So I did that first rail. It was a big red rail, and I felt amazing. It was a very good high for me. Yeah. I was like, I can conquer the fucking world right now, bro. Let's go. I'll go jump off that roof and do a triple backflip. Whatever the fuck, let's go,
Like limitless.
Yeah, I felt limitless, bro. I was like, I can literally go throw this football over that fucking mountain right now. Like that's shit. But anyways, and that took me on I joke around. I didn't sleep in the 90s, Wow. And I literally think I passed high school because of meth. Like that was my only way I had motivation to do homework and shit, But I was running around with older crowds, getting into that underground tweaker scene that was going around in the 90s, doing all kinds of fraudulent shit, hanging out with porn stars and the drugs. I lived the lifestyle of Southern California on meth back then. I was just all about it, man. Hotels and let's go. Credit card checks, all that shit, And
Tell us about the first time you used heroin and what that was like.
I remember I was coming down off the meth, and an older friend of mine, this essay in Santa Ana, was like, hey, I was like, not feeling good. I'd been up too long. And he's like, hey, you want to smoke some heroin, Tyson? And I'm like, I've never done it. He goes, take a couple hits of this, man. So I took a couple of rips, and I remember literally like that movie Train Spotting. I went on my friend's like lazy boy chair, and I'd been up for like a few days, and I'd smoked some heroin, and I just sunk into where the ground opened up, and I just sunk into like the most comfortable feeling I've ever had in my life. I was just like, wow, this is fucking the most perfect thing you can do coming off of meth. Smoke some heroin. Yeah, I smoked it, and I felt amazing. It was not a bad experience at all.
Tell us about the craziest thing you ever experienced when you were high.
The craziest thing I've ever experienced when I was high. There is a lot of things I cannot talk about that I experienced when I was high, but some things I'll say for the cameras today. One experience was I used to go to Mexico a lot, and I was, involved with the kind of people that run drugs down there. I did some time with some essays, and anyways, I was running around the back streets of Tijuana, and saw a lot of shit go down there. I ended up in Mexican federal prison for smuggling, and inside of Tijuana prison, some crazy shit happened, to survive, and I definitely had a lot of violence involved. But one quick story I'll tell you, that I was in Santa Ana one time, and I bought a 20 of meth from some little alley in Santa Ana, right? And it was these two like older white guys in a motorhome in this parking lot selling drugs, right? And anyways, I go to smoke it, and it was fake. And I was so drunk, I went into this like murderous rage, and I told my friend, what kind of weapons you got right here, you know? And he's like, I got a machete. And I was like, give me that fucking machete. So we went back, and I knocked on the door, and I'm like, hey, I need some more, you know? And then they opened the door, and I pulled them both out, and I was ready to chop their heads off. Luckily, I didn't have to do anything. They took me pretty serious, and then obviously I'm like, you know what? I not only want my money back, I want everything you got now, because since you fucked me over, you know. Yeah. So anyways, I putting machetes to people's heads over a fucking dime of meth, you know, just crazy shit like that. And just lots of meth-induced psychosis where I can paint a picture of like where I thought something was happening and it was nowhere near that reality, right? Yeah. Like lots of those moments where, you know, you're being, anyways, lots of crazy shit, man.
Meth-induced psychosis is crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. So I one time, you want me to talk about a story of meth-induced psychosis? I had been doing a lot of shit in Mexico, and I came back and I'd been up maybe a week. I used to stay up like a week or two. I was one of those guys that hated to go to sleep in the 90s, man. I fucking wanted to be up as long as possible so I can get the best trip going.
What's the longest you ever stayed up?
I stayed up 2 weeks.
Me too.
About 14 days, bro. Yeah.
My body just hit the off switch. It's like, you ain't listening, bro.
I missed the 2 days of my life that I went to bed on a Sunday and woke up on a Wednesday. And I don't remember, like, I was like, what the fuck? You know, like where you literally didn't wake up for like a whole day. And it was like 2 days. Anyways, I've had moments where, you know, I come back from Tijuana and some crazy shit was going on. And I'm watching my friend's camera, and she's like a dope dealer. So she's got cameras all over. And I seen a bunch of fucking Suburbans come pulling up onto her lawn in the camera. And I'm like, oh shit, it's the fucking cops, you know? And I ran and jumped over the fence, and they're following me. And I thought it was the Mexican federales. For some reason, I thought like I was back in TJ. Wow. And then shit got so weird. I thought they were trying to set me up to do something on Mexican soil so they can arrest me. And they made Santa Ana look like TJ looked like Santa Ana, right? And I was like, oh fuck, they're trying to get me right now, you know? And they left, and I walk up to this gas station, this car's running, and I'm like, oh, they're trying to get me to steal a car. And I'm going like this, right? Like, fuck you guys, man, right? And I go, and I see the Chevron station's home address, like their corporate headquarters. Yeah. I'm in the city of Tustin, and it says like Cyprus. And I go, I fucking got these fools. And I go up to the cashier, and I grab him by the shirt. I'm like, this ain't fucking Cyprus, motherfucker. He's like, I'm calling the cops, bro. And I'm like, I take off, and I snap, I just start laughing on this freeway bridge. I'm like, bro, it's time to go to bed. It's time to fucking go to bed. But,
at what point or moment did you realize that you had to stop getting high?
There's a video I actually say on TikTok. It's my first video I put out, and I'll try to remember exactly what I said, but I didn't have the courage to die, and the pain of living had become too great. And that's when I knew I was between a rock and a hard place. I no longer wanted to live, and I didn't have the courage to die. And that was like a very scary place to be in the middle of. I can handle a lot of physical lows and bottoms, but my mental lows and bottoms are scary for me. When my mind finally started slipping, and I ended up in a couple of psych wards at the end of my addiction. And a tough guy like me doesn't go to psych wards, right? Yeah. And I love talking about that now because it shames my disease. Yeah. It's like, you know, it shows how powerful this thing is. Yeah. And that's where I was at. I was that broken enough where I'm like, I can't do this anymore.
Man, where were you?
It was I was in prison.
Okay.
I had just gotten arrested, and I got a 16-month prison term for a caught in a heroin, right? And I'm doing time, and the laws had just changed where I had the opportunity to get out and go to a rehab. Okay. So they let me out of prison on Prop 47, where possession went from felonies to misdemeanors. And I go, and they go, part of your condition is you got to go to this rehab and do 6 months. So I went to a recovery center, and that was where like the first month I didn't take it as serious. I've been playing games with recovery for 25 years, and I wanted it, but I didn't know how to really get it right.
Yeah.
We dance around the rooms, but we don't know what the hell we're doing.
Yeah.
And anyways, I had my last relapse, and I came back, and I was just broken enough where I'm like, I'm gonna give 100% into my recovery this time. I've never done that, and I gave it 100%. And here I sit before you today, a changed person.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, what do you think is what are you most proud of yourself now that you're clean and sober?
Well, a bunch of things I'm very grateful for. I have 2 children in sobriety. I'm married to a beautiful woman. I have a 3-year-old son, a 1-year-old daughter. I have an amazing career in the recovery industry. I do a lot of outreach, and I'm on the board. I'm a board member of Yellowstone Recovery in Costa Mesa. I'm a board member with the Knoll Family Foundation. The lead singer of Sublime that passed away from heroin, Bradley Knoll. I work with his family. We're going to open a house called Bradley's House. Cool. It's a nonprofit detox for musicians, but you don't have to be a musician. Just anybody that needs help. Yeah. And I just got my certification as an interventionist professional. So now I can go travel the world, and I have an international certification. I can go to any country in the world and help a family, man. You know, so I just literally have gone all in with the recovery field. I want to spend the rest of my life helping people to recover and maybe get a taste of what I've been able to experience, man.
That's great. That reminds me of a quote that my pastor always says. He says, I want to spend my life mending broken people. I want to spend my life removing pain.
I love that.
That's something you can live by. Now, real quick, Tyson, I want you to share, speak to somebody who's still struggling with heroin right now. But what can you tell them to help them?
If you're out there and you're still struggling, your mind's going to tell you that, yeah, maybe that guy can change, but I can't. And I used to think the same exact thing. And most people aren't quite at the point where they want to change. If you're at that point where you don't know what to do, but you can't take it anymore, you need to reach out for help. And I just want to tell you that I encourage you, don't try and do it on your own. That's the biggest lie, is that I got to figure this out on my own. This is the one thing I beg of you not to try and figure out on your own, because you'll die trying to do it. Ask for help. There's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of men and women who have recovered from drug addiction, and they can help show you the way. It's like being a Lamborghini engine technician, and you're going to try and figure out how to rebuild a fucking engine. You don't know what the fuck you're doing. Come talk to somebody who does know what they're doing. Let them take you and guide you through, so we can reteach you how to live.
That's right. That's good. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to Using My Story. There's a number down at the bottom. If you don't know where to start or you need some help, feel free to call that number. Also, go visit the website. There's tons of free resources on there. And check out the YouTube channel. There's subscribe. We have hundreds of stories on there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.